All right, well, welcome. What's your name and what do you do?
Hi, it's Nigel Chadwick. I'm one of the founders of Stream Technologies. Stream Technologies provides wireless network connectivity. So that means that we provide connectivity across cellular, increasingly satellite, and shortly low power radio network services as well on one single management platform to enterprise companies.
So explain the low power in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you've got low power radio networks. There's a number of alternative networks now starting to make progress in the world. Effectively, it's on a mesh or a localized basis, so you can connect many sensors which generally have low battery draw, so they can stay out in the field for long periods of time, generally sending small amounts of data. Is something on? Is it off? Is it working? Is there trouble that needs to be addressed? So small bits of data back and forth to probably a gateway, and from that gateway the whole amount of data off the sensors can then be backhauled over 3G or 4G LTE or even satellite where there's no cellular connectivity.
Right.
So what Stream is doing on its management platform is effectively giving true visibility right through from the sensor all the way through the low power radio network and out through the backhaul. So there's an overview, if you like, of the data path, whether the data is being transmitted across all the different elements of the data path. So we're enabling data to be transferred resiliently and securely, and in a way that can be easily managed, irrespective of the wireless type of connectivity.
So, from the backhaul, are there many options in terms of connectivity?
Well, the backhaul, increasingly so. You've got to date predominantly 3G. It's moving into 4G in the UK now. LTE over here. But I think over the next few years we're going to see more and more backhaul infrastructures based on satellite. The satellite operators have been working in SCADA, so kind of point-to-point solutions for many years now. You know, it goes back to the 80s and 90s, so it predates a lot of more recent M2M technologies. But I think moving forward, they are making a lot of noise about wanting to take a bigger slice of machine-to-machine Internet of Things. That therefore means that they're going to have to compete directly with cellular operators, which means that they're going to have to bring their form factor and their pricing down, the capex and the operating costs of transiting data. I think that'll happen. We've seen it in the cellular world happen since around the year 2000. I think we'll start to see it in the satellite world as they start to look at how they can use various additional capacities that they're actually carrying on quite a number of the satellites.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, price is one thing and form factor is another thing, but what about bandwidth? Do they have the bandwidth required?
Yeah, they do, or they're certainly planning to have. Some of them are putting up new satellites, or they will as soon as they can get the launch slots. There's a bit of an issue with regards to being able to get the satellites up at the moment. But there's a whole schedule of new satellites planned to be launched over the next year or two. We see the satellite play starting to come into effect probably from around mid-2015 onwards, because I think by then they'll start to have some of the extra satellites up. But in particular, I think that the form factor of the satellite equipment and the tracking devices that are being based on the tracking, the satellite technologies, will come down in form factor to a size that's acceptable and to a cost that is wearable as well.
So now you piggyback on top of, if we go back to 4G or 3G, you piggyback on top of existing mobile networks. Is that right?
Yeah, we think of us perhaps as an overlay integrated into all the mobile networks. So it doesn't matter which mobile network we're talking about. It doesn't matter where they are in the world. We can integrate through a very light technical touch, and that's through APIs. Okay. Which means that we're very easy to deal with. We're very quick to integrate. And we can onboard the mobile network operators. We've done something like 15 now across the world, and there's probably another 15 to 20 lined up over the next year to come on board. which starts to build that international network of mobile operators, but through one single management platform, so that an enterprise customer doesn't have to deal individually, contractually, pricing, or with the vagaries of different management platforms that the different operators tend to use across the world.
Yeah, and I'm thinking even more than that. I want your opinion on this, because I just recently started seeing specific M2M or IoT networks, mobile networks being launched. Is that, is that just branding? Is that just marketing? Or is there, I mean, they were saying there's some characteristics that are different, rather than, using a voice network or a data network.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I do know that you're referring to, and this has been touted. I think it's relatively small scale and localized at the moment.
I know in UK they have one. I just recently saw something, or maybe you
haven't seen it yet. I'd heard there was one in Portugal, actually.
Okay. All right. So not that many.
Well, they weren't talking about streaming in the UK. But this private internet for things is a very valid point. And there's, I always say to people, the devil is in the detail. So you've got to look closely at what they're actually selling in terms of the actual management platform itself, the backhaul infrastructure. There's a whole multitude of technologies around just the backhaul infrastructure itself that you can start to talk about. And you've really got to look and search to find the truly unique companies offering the high levels of resilience and security.
So is that what you're referring to when you say the backhaul technologies? Maybe expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, sure. Well, for example, I mean, if I talk about Stream's own backhaul infrastructure, it's been uniquely designed. So everything off mast runs across our own uniquely designed backhaul infrastructure. So we have an N+1 architecture, which effectively means that we can lose 2/3 of the backhaul infrastructure, and it still runs at 99.9999% uptime. There's packet loss mitigation technology that we actually integrate into the infrastructure. So these kind of design propositions, and the fact that we maintain this high quality at our cost, we choose to provide that higher quality, means that the end customer has a much higher level of resilience and security and ease of management of the entire on-mast / off-mast infrastructure.
So explain a little bit more detail for me. So you have an overlay network over, let's say, Rogers. Okay. And then what is your infrastructure? You've got the gateway. Okay, that's going to make the backhaul connection. But you're referring to other infrastructure. What other infrastructure are you referring to?
Yeah, I'm talking about, well, data comes off mast, so the masts are run by the operator networks. But then it moves off mast, and everything moves through or is transited through the Stream private APN, which effectively comprises 3 data centers, all with mirrored servers, enterprise grade, London, Edinburgh, and Manchester. So there's a huge amount of redundancy built into the pathways of the backhaul infrastructure. Plus, it'll dynamically assign IP addresses, so it won't be just one single IP address. It'll dynamically assign multiple IP addresses, which means that it has, in essence, it has a much better chance of connecting if part of the infrastructure goes down. And then the networks themselves are what's called lossy networks. They lose packets of information, which means that they're inefficient. And they have a result of slowness and inefficiency as a result of that. So by putting in packet loss mitigation technology, along with all these other technologies, it all starts to add up to a much more resilient and speedier network.
So within your overlay network, you're saying?
Yeah, well, on the off-mast infrastructure, when I refer to our network as being an overlay network, I'm more referring to the actual management platform. As an overlaying kind of layer. So the management platform through the APIs can connect into multiple different carriers, or indeed they can actually connect into multiple different platforms themselves. So the Jaspers, the Ericssons, or the Wirelesses of this world. If our management platform can connect into all these through a simple API integration, and the end customers can then just use the single management platform layer.
Okay, I want to understand that a little bit
Yeah, yeah.
better. So talk about the management platform. Is this an API that connects to other APIs, or is it something different? What is you've talked about it a few times. What is the management platform?
Sure, yeah. The management platform effectively does integrate through APIs. If you take a single operator, then some other platforms connect into it at a HLR level. Streams technology, we can do it at a HLR level. We have the technical competence to do that. But from our perspective, it's probably not the most technical, eloquent solution. So we'll use APIs, it's less disruptive. What that means is that we have a very basic connectivity capability with the network operator, but all the other functionality on our platform is in it's a virtual state. So it all sits off net, and included in that is all the monitoring equipment with regards to data transit, so thresholds, minimums, maximums. It can provide alerts. We've got counting boxes, so what that means is it actually counts the data off net, and by that we can make, we've got algorithms that will calculate data usage, so thereby we can provide a prepay solution, which doesn't necessarily then have to rely upon the cold data records or the raw data records that are coming back from the network operator, because in many instances there might be a delay. For example, on roaming solutions, there's often a delay in that type of data being provided. So we use that as a double check, obviously over the course of time. But in terms of providing real-time analytics and monitoring on network of the actual data and the connectivity, that's all done via the management platform. So it's quite a unique solution, and the world is just kind of getting to know about it now, because this week we've just kind of released the IoT X Connect platform.
Oh, nice. Now, I guess then there's a direct relationship between this measurement and billing.
Yes.
So is this a feature of the platform as well?
Yeah. Since 2005, up until which time we were using third-party billing systems, which hadn't been designed for machine to machine, and they'd been born from wired legacy kind of billing systems. We took the decision to build our own billing algorithms, and of course, for machine to machine, you're talking in many instances lots of connects, small amounts of data. So it's a very, very different, it's almost an inverse kind of billing algorithm, billing model to consumers and corporates that are billed from day to day by mobile network operators worldwide. Right. So that produces lots of data records, and then to be able to manage all those data records takes quite a powerful set of algorithms and servers in terms of being able to speed up the billing process and do all the monitoring around the billing. So, yeah, we've done our own billing now since 2005.
Super important. Okay, so on the line of billing, let's get into business models. I'm interested in two business models.
Yeah.
Number one is with this billing information or this billing system and management system, what are your customers? What are the typical business models of your customers? Mm-hmm. And then secondly, I'd like to understand your business model. And so for the viewers of this video, when they're looking for a platform, a connectivity platform, what do they have to think about? I guess, and I'd like to understand yours. So the two I'm interested in.
Sure. Business models from our customers, obviously there's always the price. So with multiple network operators offering network connectivity, quite often customers will approach the different networks for different models. But there's big differences between the network models. For example, in the UK, there's one network operator that will provide 3G, but it doesn't fall back to 2G services. So we always always try and place the end customer onto the right network, which means that we've got the right tariff for that customer. And the models are hugely variable, because at one end of the scale you've got smart meters and insurance telematics, which is small amounts of data frequently sent, but they have to be very cheap connectivity solutions.
And this is for your customers again, right?
For the customers, yeah. And on the other end of the scale, you've got things like digital broadcasting. I think that's going to be big as we move towards 4G in Europe more and more, whereby broadcasters can use cellular services to broadcast live interviews, media events, that kind of thing, rather than the legacy kind of transmission, which has always been satellite, whereby you have to book an expensive satellite fan out. You have to, get it into the schedule, and it's expensive airtime, operating costs. So as we move towards 4G, we're seeing new business models and new tariffs come into play in terms of larger data sets being serviced. From our perspective, in terms of our own business model, we'll often do a wholesale agreement with the operators, and that is more and more inclined to become what we call a bundle-based wholesale agreement. So it will include a certain amount of megabytes or gigabytes, depending on the actual wholesale tariff, which we will then re-rate and sell out on a retail basis to our end customers.
In the same way, on a per byte basis or on a per connectivity basis?
Yeah, no. Well, usually in M2M IoT now, once they've tested their devices in the field, there's quite a consistency, shall we say, in the amount of data that's transmitted over a device. So you know what the broad parameters are, so you will put them onto a bundle that includes a little bit of extra headroom just in case it overruns, but generally it'll fit within that bundle. If it doesn't, you can shift them onto a different pricing model. Okay. Now, for groups of devices that might have a variability, for example, maybe some kind of alarm system whereby pretty much it's asleep, just saying yes, I'm working, but tiny amounts of data until that alarm is triggered, and then there's a much higher data throughput. Then in those variable situations, what we find in that the end customer will more likely choose a pooled or an aggregated option. So within that, there's a pool of data, and there will be a drawdown basis across all the different devices. And again, this is typical of the challenges that the billing systems are facing. So we've evolved to create billing systems that take account of those different kinds of situations.